My job is simply to make sure you're understanding the actual what's happening here instead of taking comfort in any headlines, instead of getting overexcited or exasperated because they say Dr. Oz and the Trump administration is ending this. We'll know real numbers. Some people are going to be happy. Some people are going to be whatever. You worked hard your whole life. The last thing you need is to get played by the system. And with that, welcome to the Insurance Wise Guys, where we bring the sharpest minds in senior living to give you real talk, real answers, and zero BS. I'm your host, Paul Barrett. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Insurance Wise Guys. I'm your host, Paul Barrett, the founder of the Modern Medicare Agency. I've spent the last 18 years working exclusively with Medicare, helping thousands of clients across the country navigate one of the most complicated and important financial decisions of their lives. This show exists for one reason: to give you the honest, straightforward conversation about insurance that nobody else seems to be having. No jargon, no sales pitch, just the real information from real experts that you can actually use. So normally I bring on a guest to talk about certain topics, whether it be financial planning, long-term care, life insurance, how to stay functionally healthy in our 60s and 70s. But we've had some really big news recently in the Medicare landscape. So I want to take a few moments just to go over this because my office is getting flooded with calls. So here we go, guys. Today we're going to break down what exactly is happening with Medicare Part D subsidies being discontinued, just how that will most likely affect us all. And then we're going to address the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge Program that recently launched on July 1st. All right, so if you've called my office in the last couple of days asking about Part D premiums going up because of something you saw on the news, you're not alone. I have gotten dozens of these calls already. So let's actually break down what's happening, what it means for you, and just as important, what does it not mean? No spin. We're not talking politics here. We're just talking facts, okay? Republican, Democrat, nothing to do with anything here, guys. We're talking about what's happening. So what actually happened, first, the news. On July 28th, CMS, which is the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services, announced they're going to end something called the Part D Premium Stabilization Demonstration after this year. Really fancy way of saying we're not going to give any money to the Part D program that the Biden administration was doing to help stabilize costs. That's really what it means, right? This program launched in 2025 to keep standalone Part D premiums stable while insurance carriers adjusted to big changes from this Inflation Reduction Act, including the new cap on what you pay out of pocket. For all you new to Medicare, you might have only known the Inflation Reduction Act and understood that you have a $2,000 max out of pocket in 2025, and in 2026, it's $2,100. Starting in 2027, that support goes away on the standalone Part D plans. Go back to what CMS calls traditional market conditions. Insurance pricing their own plans without an extra federal cushion. Now, CMS own administrator, Dr. Oz, said most people should expect an increase less than $10 a month, with some people even seeing decreases. Consumer advocates push back, saying even a small increase is real money for someone on a fixed income. Both of those things certainly can be true. Once, and honestly, nobody knows your exact number yet. CMS won't publish real 2027 premiums. They're saying until September. Honestly, we're going to know for a fact as of October 1st. That's when it gets released to me and all the rest of the agents out there. The part everyone seems to be getting wrong is the 6% cap. This was built in to help try and keep Part D premiums down. Now, here's where I want to slow down, way down, because this is part that actually very misleading. You've probably also heard there's a law capping Part D premiums. The increase is at 6% a year. That is true, and it will protect your actual bill. Let me explain why. There are two totally different numbers. They both get called the Part D premium. Number one is the National Base Beneficiary Premium, a government-calculated national average. That number really is capped at 6% a year by law, and that's going to go on until 2029. For 2027, it's set at $41.33. Now, number two, what is your insurance company actually charging you for your actual plan? That number uses the national average as a starting point, but then the insurer prices it based on their own cost and their own risk. And that goes state by state, right? So if you have a Part D plan and you live in Wyoming, New York, California, Texas, wherever, your plans cost the same no matter what, state by state. You get a certain amount of plans, doesn't matter what county you're in. All right. So they're worried about their risk in each particular state. So you may see some plans, like Dr. Oz said, there's still going to be some really cheap plans out there. And then in some areas, if you live in New York or California, the national cost of a Part D drug plan with the actual numbers is over $100. All right. It's the same world, but two completely different things. One's protected, one isn't. Okay. How the formula actually works, and this isn't just insurers just doing whatever they feel like. There's an actual federal regulation behind it. Every plan's premium gets adjusted based on how that specific plan has its own costs compared to the national average. If a plan expects higher costs than average, federal rules, literally require that the premium to go up by the exact difference, and most plans charge an extra premium for enhanced benefits on top of that, which is also completely capped. So it's a real built-in structure, capped baseline, but uncapped adjustment stacked on top of it. Right? I probably lost a bunch of you now. It's basically a loophole for the insurance companies to make sure that all these adjustments that really pushed a lot of the cost onto the insurer prevents them from losing money. That's really what it's coming about. Nobody's breaking any rules here. This is exactly how the system was designed. I'll give you an example. It's kind of like the car analogy I like to use with a lot of folks, right? Think of it like the manufacturer's price on a stripped down based model car. The factory says the base model only goes up 6% this year. True. But the dealership, your insurance company, can add mandatory fees, trim the packages, market adjustments, whatever they want on top of that. The factory's number barely moved. What you actually pay at the dealership can double or triple. And technically, nobody broke their promise because the factory's 6% promise was never about your final price, right? A lot of double talk there, guys. What we're trying to prepare for is you're going to see some increases in some areas that are going to be way above 6%. The real numbers, let me show you how this is in theory. WellCare Value Script is one of the most popular standalone Part D plans in the country. In 2025, it literally was $0 a month in most states. In California, that same year, it went from 40 cents, right? 40 cents, right? 40 cents to 150, went up 150% in 1 year after that, the most popular plan in America. So there are real examples, even more dramatic than that one. An enrollee in New Jersey that I had, $0 in 2024, right, to $30 in 2025. And then it went up over 1,000% in 2026. So these numbers, guys, that we talk about, the 6% cap, it's really kind of guidelines, hypothetical. But you're going to see some massive movements in numbers. Not to say there won't be any cheap plans, because there's always going to be some, depending on where you live. To be fair, the cuts both ways. Some people on this exact plan have seen their premiums drop. WellCare Value Script was still zero in a bunch of states for 2026, which blows my mind. Here in New York, it's $42 and change. The point isn't that the prices only go up. It's that the 6% number tells you almost nothing about what happens in your actual bill in either direction. So we are really not sure what to expect. Depending on the state, you could see some plans go up, some plans go down, some plans really go up. But here's why this specifically happens to the ultra cheap plans. A lot of these near $0 plans were priced that low, and partially because the exact federal support program that's now ending, once that support disappears, the insurer has to make up that money somewhere. And the plan that was artificially cheap is exactly the plan most likely to see the biggest jump for 2027. Who this affects? Quick note. This whole conversation is about standalone Part D plans. The kind you pay with original Medicare. So for all you folks out there, there's about 25 million that have a Medicare supplement and a standalone drug plan. You're the ones that we're really talking to. If your drug coverage is built into a Medicare Advantage plan instead, the specific story matters a lot less for you directly. Though your plan can still change for other reasons, it doesn't affect you as much. So, what do we actually do? Here's the real advice. Nothing changes for the rest of this year, so we can't worry about it. Don't take comfort when you hear people talk about the 6% cap and you see it in a headline. It's real. It's just not protecting the number you care about, which is your premium, right? The actual plan premiums for 2027 will be announced by October 1st. And that's when we're going to start to see everything. You're going to see the notice of changes showing up in your mailbox in September. Make sure you pay attention this year more than ever, right? The annual notice of change, the thick packet that comes from your Part D provider or your Medicare Advantage company. And it's very important that you keep your eye on that. If you don't, you could be in for some real sticker shock come January. All right, we're going to go into all this stuff during the fall. When we see all the options, we'll have another, video or two or chat or two about it. But when the annual enrollment opens in October 15th, make sure you shop your actual medications against real alternatives. Look, guys, I am not here to tell you whether ending this program was a good call politically. Reasonable people are disagreeing on that, right? Back and forth, always an argument. And it's not my job to referee. My job is simply to make sure you're understanding the actual what's happening here instead of taking comfort in any headlines, instead of getting overexcited or exasperated because they say Dr. Oz and the Trump administration is ending this. We'll know real numbers. Some people are going to be happy. Some people are going to be whatever. And then there's going to be a lot of people going to be upset, unfortunately. If you got questions before then, you know where to find me, right? You have all my contact information, guys. So we won't have to worry about that. Now, the other topic that I really wanted to dive into, can't tell you how many calls I've gotten about it before July, how many I continue to get. And that's because the GLP-1 Bridge Program is probably one of the most misunderstood programs out there. All right, so let's talk about it. Everybody wants to get their Zepbound, Ozempic, Wegovy, all these different drugs. They were expecting to get these for $50 because of this new Bridge Program. And it's just not true. So if you heard you can get Wegovy or Zepbound for $50 a month on Medicare now, you heard it right. But there's a lot more to this program than one headline. And I've already seen people get denied at the pharmacy for reasons that have nothing to do with whether they actually qualify. Let's break it down exactly how this is going to work, who it's actually for, how it's not getting caught by these early hiccups, right? We don't want to get caught by the early hiccups, and there's tons of them. I haven't heard a whole lot of positive about the program yet. So what the program actually is, it's called the Medicare Bridge Program. It launched July 1st, just a couple of weeks ago this year, and it's going to run through December 31st, 2027. So make no mistakes. Right now, it is temporary. It's a pilot. It's not a permanent part of Medicare yet. Here's the important part. The program runs completely outside of your Part D program. It's not being covered by your Part D coverage. It's a government program, right? It's not your Part D plan deciding to cover this. There's a separate central system run directly by Medicare that handles the approval and the payment of your regular Part D plan. Doesn't even have to opt in. That's actually why some of the early problems are happening. And let's get to that in a minute. The drugs covered are Wegovy, Zepbound, but only the quick pen, not the vials or the single dose pens. That matters. And a newer one called Fundale, which is a tablet. Okay. If your prescription is any of those three in the right form, your cost is a flat $50 a month. Doesn't matter what your income is. The money details people get wrong. Now, here's what trips people up. That $50 doesn't count towards your Part D deductible, and it does not count towards your yearly out-of-pocket limits. It's just $50 every month, completely separate from how the rest of your drug plan works. And here's the one that really surprises people. If you get extra help, the low-income subsidy, that doesn't reduce this $50 at all. Normally, extra help would lower or eliminate a copay like this. Not here. Everybody pays the same flat $50, no matter what your income level is. I want you to hear that clearly because nobody's caught off guard standing at the pharmacy thinking they're going to get it for $7 because they participate in the extra help program or you have a state pharmaceutical program that normally helps you. It's not going to help. One more, this isn't eligible for Medicare prescription payment plan, right? The program that lets you spread your drug costs out monthly. So you're going to pay that $50 directly each time, not spreading it. Who actually qualifies? The part most people are getting wrong. Guys, this is crazy. This is where I want to slow down once again because I've seen this explained incorrectly. I have a ton of customers that were really upset about it. In a lot of places online, there are actually three different ways to qualify, not two. You need to be 18 or older. You need to have Medicare Part D coverage, either standalone or through a Medicare Advantage plan. And that's withdrawal coverage, right? And at least one of these three to be true. What is it? Number one, your body mass index, BMI. They love to throw that around. Body mass index, 35 or higher, period. No other conditions needed. No diabetes, no heart disease, nothing. Okay? So, and number two, your BMI is 30 or higher, and you have certain heart failure, high blood pressure that's hard to control, or chronic kidney disease at stage 3 or beyond. And third is the one where people miss. Your body mass index is 27 or higher. That's a lower bar than most people think. And you have pre-diabetes, or you had a heart attack or stroke, or blocked arteries in your legs or arms. One more important exclusion, you already have type 2 diabetes, moderate to severe sleep apnea, or fatty liver disease. You're not eligible for this specific bridge program. Don't panic. That's because your regular Part D plan is covering it already. That's a conversation to have with your doctor and your plan directly. So, one of the biggest problems before we move on from this is a lot of people that were already on these types of GLP-1 drugs thought as soon as the bridge program came out, they were no longer going to have to pay a $100 copay or an $80 copay or meet a deductible. But that's not true. If you're already qualified for health conditions and you're already on a GLP-1 drug, guess who doesn't qualify? You, unfortunately. So just because you had it before and you're willing to switch from Ozempic to Zepbound doesn't make a difference. If you've already been offered the drug and it's been covered by your Part D, you're not going to qualify. The real problem a lot of folks are running into, it's basically what's happening at the pharmacies right now, because this is generally useful if you or someone you know is trying to use this. This program has its own special billing numbers, completely separate from the regular Part D. The plan's billing information is going to deny these claims, okay? So it has to go through the right channels. If a pharmacy accidentally runs your claim through a normal Part D plan instead of the Bridge program, specific processor, it comes back looking exactly like a flat-out denial. It looks identical, but it's not actually a denial. It just means the claim never even reached the right system. And this is happening, guys, happening every day. My God, so many phone calls about this, people yelling and screaming, getting so upset. All right, so Pharmacy Times did a real check in 2 weeks after this launched, and this exact routing mix-up was the single biggest issue they found. More than actual eligibility denials, there hasn't been many of those. So if you get told this isn't covered at the counter, the very first question you need to ask is, did you bill it through the Bridge program's processor specifically and not my regular insurance Part D plan? Beyond that, if you're eligible and it's routed correctly, it still usually requires your doctor to submit a prior authorization, and that typically takes minimum 24 hours up to 72 hours to come back. After that first approval, refills don't need a new authorization unless you switch to a different one of these three particular drugs, which restarts the whole process. So I don't recommend it. And if you get a real denial and you believe you qualify, you have a formal appeal right, just like anything else. Most successful appeals get resolved in the first or second round. And in my experience, it's been the second round. Usually, your doctor providing a bit more documentation on medical necessity is all it takes. Okay, so make sure the doctors really put some effort into it and get that right the first time. So here's the short version. The real program $50 price is generally helpful for a lot of people, but it's brand new, right? So it runs on its own separate system. And the most common problem right now isn't eligibility. It's really the claims getting routed the wrong way. If you think you might qualify, you got to talk to your doctor first about whether your BMI and your health history fit one of those three categories that I mentioned earlier. And if you hit a wall at the pharmacy, don't just assume you were rejected, right? You have to ask specifically whether it went through the bridge processor or did you bill my Part D drug claim? So eventually they may catch on and they'll know this, but it's still new to the pharmacies, it's still new to the doctors, and it's still new to us, the agents, and it's still new, of course, you, the consumers. This program runs through the end of the year, January 2027, right now. And I'll keep you posted on the changes. If you have questions about your specific situation, you know where to find me. Guys, as always, thanks for watching. If you learned anything about something that struck a chord with you, please feel free to share. If you guys have questions, you have a topic you want to learn about, I don't care whether you need help with your taxes, estate planning, you want to learn some new things about nutrition in your 60s and 70s, let me know. We're going to have new guests on a weekly basis to try and help give you guys the best, most up-to-date, accurate information about pressing questions. All right. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Insurance Wise Guys. If today's conversation made you think, good, that's exactly the point. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it, because the best thing you can do for people you care about is make sure they have the right information before they need it. I'm Paul Barrett. Stay wise, stay protected, and we'll see you next time.